Hey everybody, and thank you for joining the tailgate. As always, I am Luke, and I'm joined by Michael and Dennis.
How's everyone doing?
And today we have got a guest on. He's going to be talking to us about Notre Dame, and it's Ryan Fravel from the Week Zero podcast at Week Zero Productions. So Ryan, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing well, man. Doing well. We had this in the works for a couple months now, so it's glad to finally hop on here.
Yeah, it's good to get on, talk some Irish football, get some information about what's going on at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say one of the things that we kind of like to start off with all of our guests is obviously you're a Notre Dame fan. That's why we got you on. But what is your Notre Dame story? Why Notre Dame?
So I didn't really have a choice growing up. I'm a fourth generation Notre Dame fan.
Okay.
My great grandparents actually came from Ireland.
Okay.
So they kind of came from Ireland. They're like, hey, what's this football thing? They moved to Illinois. Everyone there's kind of like Illinois is a Notre Dame type state.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, oh, well, they're the Fighting Irish. So we're from Ireland. We like that. So that's basically how that started. And then growing up as a fourth generation, I was like, my favorite story to tell people is I was a newborn baby at the time. Notre Dame was playing Miami back during the heated rivalry days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in my crib trying to take a nap, be a normal baby, do baby stuff. And my mom's sitting there yelling and screaming, having a total meltdown because Notre Dame threw a pick. And I got woken up from my nap, and it completely ruined my day. And she said that I never stopped screaming the rest of the day. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm a Notre Dame fan then.
Yep. You were just as upset. You didn't even know why.
Yeah.
You just knew you had to be mad.
Just knew it in the score. That's it.
So there's been a lot going on with Notre Dame this offseason, obviously. Now, coaching-wise, then she got a coaching question for him.
I mean, I know the fact that Marcus Freeman's done pretty well actually the past couple of years. Doesn't seem like he's in the hot seat at all. Is there any kind of expectation, I guess, for this upcoming season since, it seems like he's getting, I guess, record-wise, getting better every year?
Yeah, so funny enough, he actually tied the record in program history for the most wins in 2 seasons as a head coach at Notre Dame.
Oh.
So I can't exactly remember the numbers right off the top of my head. But yeah, he's the only second to Newt Rockne, and we know what Newt Rockne did. He beat out Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly's like third on that list. So for him, what he's doing so far is, you would say, over expectations. But this year, especially if you look at our schedule, you've got 3 key games. You can add 4 in there if you want to add Louisville in there. But you got Texas A&M week 1, game day at Kyle Field, night game under the lights. That's a big one. You got, Florida State coming to South Bend in early November for the green out game that Marcus Freeman has now introduced. So that's going to be wild. And then you got obviously USC, who's a big time rival at the Coliseum, tends to be a nightmare for Notre Dame. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter if they're clearly better than USC. Those games always tend to come down to the wire. So yeah, I mean, with how easy the schedule is, besides those 3 key games, for me personally, my expectation is 11-1. But you have to be able to make the playoff. Most Notre Dame coaches that you think about when you talk about the greatest Notre Dame coaches to ever do it, Brian Kelly made a national championship his third year. Eric Parsegan won a national championship his third year.
Okay.
Newt Rockne won a national championship his third year. Lee Holtz won a national championship his third year. So it's kind of like a third-year thing with Notre Dame coaches. And that's time to how you know if a guy is a good coach or not. But by the 12-team playoff, we've never seen anything like it before. So, but I think with that schedule, you got to at least make the playoff. Anything after that, I think, is a win for his third year. But I personally like to see us win at least 1 to 2 games in the CFP.
Okay. Now, with that being said, obviously Freeman, he's a former Buckeye, so I really love him, and I love what he does and just kind of what he brings. I got to bring Ohio State into every episode somehow, so here it is. But one of the interesting things to me, so I'll start off with kind of a thought and kind of mold it into a question for you. But so Brian Kelly, obviously, there was a big clip of him earlier talking about, at LSU, like we don't pay for the defensive. We want to bring them in and we want to develop them. And one of the things that I noticed were tons of Notre Dame fans almost giving their sympathy to LSU, almost saying like, oh, we remember this. We're sorry you're going through it. So one, can you kind of shed a little bit of light into that and what he did that kind of made Notre Dame fans have some sympathy with LSU? And then what is Freeman doing that's kind of noticeably different than what Kelly did?
So with that whole comment, it was kind of comical. It was more, not as much like Notre Dame fans feeling for LSU fans, but it was more of like Notre Dame fans trolling LSU fans because we were told the reason why Brian Kelly left was because greener pastures. It's easier to recruit at LSU, which I agree it is because LSU, I've said this for a very long time, they could have a dog as their head coach and they would still get 5-star recruits because LSU is LSU.
Sure.
And so I agree with them on that standpoint, but we dealt with Brian Kelly a lot at Notre Dame where there were literally stories of him caring more about his golf game than seeing a big-time recruit on campus for an official visit. I mean, it's just more of like there was a big quote from him while he was at Notre Dame, like I think it was 2020 or 2019, where he had said, well, at Notre Dame, we have to shop down a different aisle.
Okay.
And so when you come out and you leave for LSU and you're supposed to be able to recruit these guys, you're going to recruit easier, better, you're going to get all these guys. And you come out and you say, well, it's not going our way with the defensive side of the ball. We're not recruiting very well. Well, we just don't pay players like that. It's kind of similar to, well, we have to shop down a different aisle of athlete. Well, then why'd you leave Notre Dame then if you're going to get elite defensive players at LSU? So that's kind of where that comes from.
I gotcha.
It's kind of a weird rivalry thing now. I don't even know if you call it a rivalry between Notre Dame and LSU. At least it is for their fans.
Sure.
I don't think the teams really cared too much about it. And then Marcus Freeman on the other side, the reason he's different and the reason why Notre Dame fans, we fell in love with him the minute he got hired is he's a player's coach. Something we haven't had since, Lou Holtz was there. Lou Holtz was very hard on his players, but he was a very, proud players coach when he was there. Mm-hmm. And he's an elite level recruiter. Even with the limitations at Notre Dame, we took the stuff to Brian Kelly said to heart where you can't win at Notre Dame anymore. You can't recruit Notre Dame. You have to go down a different aisle. And Marcus Freeman, in his 3 years as Notre Dame's head coach, entering his third year, has completely blown the expectations of Notre Dame recruiting out of the water. Mm-hmm. He's the first head coach in the online recruiting internet era to have 3 straight top 10 classes at Notre Dame. No other head coach has done that. You could argue that Lou Holtz and those other coaches probably did that, but we didn't have rankings back then.
Yep.
So that's a big accomplishment for a team that you can't recruit or a school you can't recruit at. And he's getting kids that, let's just flat out say it, Brian Kelly would have never got. Deuce Knight in the 2025 class would not be at Notre Dame if Brian Kelly was there. Jeremiah Love, who's going to be our starting running back this year, was a top 60 recruit, number 5 running back in his class. He's not coming to Notre Dame if Brian Kelly's the head coach.
Yeah.
These are kids that it came down to the wire for. And Brian Kelly, a lot of times with big-time recruits, did want to go the distance with it because he wanted kids that once they saw the Notre Dame offer, well, that's either my biggest offer or it's Notre Dame, I'm going to automatically commit. Marcus Freeman is pushing the standards, and that's the one thing, ever since he got hired, his biggest statement is challenge everything. And, most coaches, they have that one saying every season that's printed on a T-shirt.
Yep.
They wear a hat. And it's a one-and-done thing, and they don't actually live by it. Mm-hmm. Marcus Freeman is one of those few coaches that do because he challenges everything. He could stay pat and just take, the normal 3 low-level 4 stars that Notre Dame always got and just be happy with it, or he could go out and try to hit a grand slam and go get those 5-star recruits. And he's been doing that.
Kind of the Michael Jordan quote, you'd miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's Wayne Gretzky.
That's a little Wayne Gretzky.
Really good sport.
Again, I'm not good with names. All right.
He's a different sport. I just finished the draw because we'd get along with him.
Either way, yeah, but you don't. The quote still rings true here. Let's get off my case about
Especially when Michael Scott did it. Right. And that's a shot at a different court. Is it just saying?
The Bulls when they were playing in the Coliseum with Abraham Lincoln as their coach. That
But we just out of the dome, then we right back into the head,
But either way, Marcus Freeman is living by that. He's taking their shots. That's awesome to see. One of the guys last year that we all really kind of liked, and Dennis might not, was Riley Leonard. We liked his style of play.
he sucked, man.
Yeah, he sucks. Well, he says he sucks, but
His mom does too.
his mom does, yes.
Because it text message every single time.
Every day. But we all really liked him, liked his gameplay. We're hated to see him go down kind of towards the end of the season. And then when he decided to come to Notre Dame, thought it was kind of I thought it was kind of a cool place, coming from Duke to Notre Dame. But what are y'all's thoughts about him? What are you seeing from him and some of the spring stuff? How's he looking?
So starting off at with that Notre Dame Duke game, that's the game ironically the game that he got injured and we actually injured the quarterback that's going to start for us now. So it's kind of karma in a sense. But going back to that game, if you actually go back and watch the tape, Notre Dame, I'll be honest, they had no business winning that game. Duke had played a hell of a game. Their defensive line played inspired.
Yep.
And let's be real, that Riley Leonard was the reason, besides that defense, was the reason that Duke was going to win that game. Because Notre Dame's defense was insane. They finished as the number 5 overall defense in the country. They had the number 1 overall pass defense in the country. So you're not going to really pass against them. And the fact that he showed he could be gritty, get those yards, and get his team in a position to win against a defense like that says all it needs to. We were a Sam Hartman 4th and 16 scramble away from losing that game. But, now that he's at Notre Dame, when I first, heard that he was coming to Notre Dame, I'll be honest, I wasn't like a lot of our fan base that tends to do what a lot of fan bases do when they get a shiny new toy. Is, man, he's going to win Heisman. He's going to be this, not. I was kind of like, I saw Riley play. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a really good quarterback, but he still has some weaknesses in his game, mainly, the throwing side of his, his ability. He's a great runner, great athlete, but we've seen that before at Notre Dame. We've seen that with Brendan Windbush. Deshaun Kaiser could do it. Everett Golson was known for that. So I was kind of worried about that, but what made me feel better about it is bringing in Mike Denbrock from LSU, who you could argue was the best offensive coordinator in football last year, had the number 1 offense, had the high contributor. And when I tell people that, they're like, well, why is that? And I said, well, look at Jaden Daniels. What were the types of things that people were saying about Jaden Daniels at ASU? The year before he came to LSU, he was a 10 touchdown and 10 interception quarterback at Arizona State. That's nothing to really brag about.
No.
He was a great athlete. That's what a lot of people said. So he goes to LSU and he sits for 2 years and develops under Mike Denbrock and their quarterback coach. And all of a sudden, in 2 years, he goes from a 10-10 quarterback to a Heisman Trophy winner. I'm not saying Mike Denbrock's going to do the same thing with Riley Leonard because I think they're 2 different quarterbacks.
Yep.
But, and also, Jaden Daniels had 2 years. Riley's only going to have 1. But to say that he can't get at least the most out of him in a year, out of almost any offensive coordinator in the country, I think Mike Denbrock's one of those guys that can do it.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, to be realistic though, you don't need Riley Leonard to be a Heisman contender for you guys to do well this year. You need him to be solid and healthy. I feel like healthy's going to be a big piece. And I agree. I think healthy's going to be a big piece. I know, wasn't he dealing with some injuries going into spring?
Yeah, so his ankle injury still had bothered him. He had surgery before he transferred over from Duke, did some rehab, and it still wasn't feeling right during spring camp. He had practiced about a week, went full pads, everything, and he didn't feel right. So Marcus Freeman said, hey, chill out. We don't need to rush this. Just go get a second surgery. So we got a second tightrope surgery. He was in a boot for actually only a day or 2. And then immediately after that day or 2 was already back at practice, planting on that leg, which to me was kind of a pretty fast recovery.
Yeah.
So and he could have played in the spring game. You see ESPN on 3-2 they come out with these articles, and it's kind of like overblowing it a little bit
Always.
to get clicks and all this stuff. But he could have played in the spring game, but it's more of like, why play him? Because also people don't know this. Notre Dame spring game was live. We had our quarterbacks live.
Right.
So they were taking full-on hits.
Mm.
No disrespect to you, Luke, but we didn't do this Ohio State stuff. We're just too in touch, and we were blitzing.
So you're not Charmin soft. Is that what you're saying? You're not Charmin soft? Is that?
I mean, we had Kenny Minchie out there, our third string quarterback, getting absolutely zero blitzed to the face in that spring game. So, I don't think you want Riley out there taking those shots. Just let the freshman do it.
Welcome to the NCAA.
But other than that, I mean, I think he'll be good to go. He should be good to go Texas A&M week 1, which brings its own unique matchups.
Oh, wow.
Elko.
Yeah.
Which that'll be its chess match within its own, because Riley knows how Elko runs his defense, but Elko also knows his weaknesses in and out.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a fun chess match.
So what I think I got out of all of that is that Riley Leonard's first surgery at Duke was not good.
Yeah.
Duke's medical staff is not that good. And when he gets surgery at Notre Dame, it only takes 2 days to heal. So
It takes a lot of prayer, man.
that's what I got. The Catholics know how to heal.
And
They never touched out Jesus, They never touched out
the
Jesus.
3 Hail Mary, the 10 Hail Marys are gonna be fine. I'm concerned with Riley Leonard though, man. Like one thing we call it Denmark couldn't do with Jaden Daniels is the fact that, basically keep him down, not get hit hard. Riley Leonard's already used to getting hit. Yes, he's a bigger dude, but he's already showing a really strong injury history. Like, how is he going to be protected?
Yeah, last year you could have had a weekly
He's overdoing it. He's overdoing it. And the very next week he'll get just smacked, and I'm like, I love this guy, but he just keeps getting smacked.
That's the thing with Riley Leonard is I think you'll see when we play teams like A&M, Louisville, USC, Florida State, you'll see complete designed QB runs for him.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mike Denbrock's talked about this, but when we're playing teams like NIU, Navy, where the game plan is going to be strictly protect Riley at all costs, and you stay in the pocket. If it's not there, you do not run. Under any circumstances, you throw that ball away. Because we don't need you taking off against Navy in a blowout game and getting blown up for no reason. So that's what I think that's what's going to be the nice about having Denbrock is he dealt with that with Jaden. I think he might be a little too much headstrong. You go watch that first play against Clemson where he ran 75 yards, and he just ran over 2 Clemson defenders. I'm like, do that. That's cool at Duke. It's cool because you need that.
Yeah.
We don't need you doing that.
Right.
That's fair. Well, so we've covered Riley Leonard and and a lot of anticipation around him for this upcoming season. What players are you looking forward to for this upcoming year? Just to either have a breakout year or just as a returning player that you're like, I'd love to see more production out of them. Who's your your top pick for those?
So, I could be, kind of bland and go obviously like the Ben Morrison route.
True.
Xavier Watts, the Bronco Nagurski Award winner. I could go Howard Cross, but I'm going to kind of go a different route.
Okay.
A guy that I'm really excited to see what he could do this year is 2 guys on the defensive side of the ball. It's true freshman Kingston Villiamalasa, who was a 5-star per Rivals in this last year's class. We got him actually over USC and Ohio State.
Yeah, nice.
He's going to be the first true freshman to start at middle linebacker for Notre Dame since Manti Te'o.
Wow. Does he have a different too?
From Polynesian descent. They're both from Polynesian descent. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, I'm excited to see what he could do. The kid is absolutely insane. You look at him and you're like, dude, this kid's 18, right? Ain't no way he's 18. Completely just buffed, jacked now, looks like a grown man. So I'm excited for him. And then Christian Gray at corner. He's a guy that we got from, the St. Louis area, was a top 100 recruit. He's a redshirt freshman, and he just it sounds like he's going to take Jaden Mickey's job, who had been a 2-year starter at corner for us. Mike Mickens has done an absolute amazing job with our cornerback room. So I'm excited to see Christian Gray strap it up, right next to Ben Morrison. And you could see Notre Dame might have an argument to have the best cornerback tandem in the country if Christian Gray lives up to the hype.
I mean, I've been hearing a lot about their defense being basically what's going to hold them down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically by themselves. I mean, I'm sure you saw that guy from CBS Sports who came out with that top 30.
Yeah.
Yep. And didn't have Notre Dame. I'm still convinced he forgot. I think he forgot Notre Dame existed. And I think he just was in denial about trying to be, he didn't want to be embarrassed that he forgot. But our defense alone, if you go for probably the 15 through 30 and the teams in that ranking, I think Notre Dame's defense alone would give them the go ahead over those teams. Because that defense is insane. This might be the best defense Notre Dame has ever had. And that's saying something.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that, I do feel like Notre Dame, obviously a lot of the big teams, the Ohio States, the USCs, Notre Dames, they're kind of those love them or hate them teams. You're either a fan or you absolutely hate them. There's no real middle ground. But I feel like Notre Dame is one of those teams that gets a lot more hate than some other. So with all that, no top 30 guys that are picking them, forgetful or not putting them in the top 30. Guys that literally, what were you talking about today that they were that number?
Oh yeah, so the power ranking that just came out from ESPN puts you guys behind Penn State. I'm sorry, but Penn State is not a more powerful team than Notre Dame.
But what, in your opinion, is the reason for that? Is it just hate and people just want to put them lower, or do people just not cover them? Well, what's going on?
So I've actually been told by a few Notre Dame haters themselves that it's because Notre Dame is the Cowboys of college football, where we get hyped up by the media every single year, which some years, yeah,
sure,
I can agree, but I don't feel like a lot of times people question Notre Dame every single year, it feels like. But they've told me that it's just like that. It's we, the prestige, Notre Dame has their own TV deal. They're not in a conference. They refuse to be like everybody else. They just want to be different. And I think that's a big part of it. Is when I get out of space, the first thing people say, hey, why does Notre Dame get in a conference? Y'all are scared. And I said, we're not scared. We just don't need a conference as of right now because we are financially self-sufficient. We are one of the few. We were actually the first college football program to have our own TV deal. Texas tried it. I don't really know how successful the Longhorn Network was because I've never watched it.
It's not around anymore. I don't think.
But no, it's a big thing. And this year I can understand it because ESPN also dropped their post spring top 25 and they had us at 5. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. I love seeing us at 5. I think we're the 5th best team in the country right now before games have been played. No, I think we're top 10 easily.
Yeah.
But top 5 is a little too rich for me until we prove it.
Sure.
So yeah, it's one of those things, man. People just hate Notre Dame just to hate Notre Dame. And I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of people. Notre Dame was what Bama was now. They were what Bama was now back in the 80s and 70s, where they were winning every single year. So I think people are kind of oh yeah, well, they haven't won anything since then, so we're just going to jump on them. Because I hated them growing up.
So much like you were in the crib crying because of the interception, we were in the crib just getting the osmosis hate Notre Dame vibes. Is that?
Yeah, and I think I also had older people, college football fans, tell me that growing up, me being 23, they had antenna back then. So you couldn't if you didn't live in a certain region, you couldn't get your college football team's local game. You might be able to get it on the radio, but it wasn't going to be on TV. Notre Dame was televised front and center on NBC every weekend. So everybody could watch Notre Dame. So I think that also rubbed people the wrong way.
Makes sense because that's very similar to what Dallas was. The Dallas was America's team because that's who they broadcast a lot.
And I still hate them, man.
It's set, they're South America's team.
Yeah.
That's not Central. We don't nickname them. Awesome. Well, we've come to the part of the show where we're going to ask for a way too early. What's the record? Where are they going to be? I know you said earlier, you're thinking 11-1. Where's that one coming from? If you had to pick a team, if you're sticking with 11-1, who's the loss coming to?
So now that I've kind of thought it over, at first it was kind of like, A&M because it's on the road. Kyle Field is one of the toughest places playing college football. It's week 1. Weird stuff happens week 1 all the time.
Sure. Yep.
But then I was like, not really, because, Mike Elko's his first year. He just brought in 30 new guys, trying to change the culture there.
He also knows
That
that.
takes a little bit to get going. I don't care if you're Nick Saban, man. You could be Nick Saban, the greatest coach of all time. Even he lost to Louisiana. Was it Lafayette or Monroe?
I think, yeah.
So even the GOAT struggled his first year. So I think you're going to see those kind of with them. Then I get to, USC, rivalry game on the road. I just don't think USC is really going to be that good this year. I don't believe everything that USC fans are trying to sell me. That their defense is improved because they got the guy from USCLA.
Yeah.
I have to wait to see it.
They are going to run the Big Ten, by the way.
Yeah. They go 12-0 in the Big Ten.
That's right.
According to SC fans. And Miller Boss is winning the Heisman, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and then, Florida State. I think Florida State is the one team that physically, talent-wise, top to bottom, can handle Notre Dame. I think that's that. If we lose a game, that would be the one we lose. But the hard thing with that one, I think this is why I think we go 12-0, is Florida State at South Bend for green out in November at night. We've seen it in the NFL. We've seen it in college when these teams from Florida or California come up to the Midwest to play a game in November, December when it's freezing. Because remember, to them, 40 degrees is freezing.
Right.
If it hits the low 60, man, you're going to see us get bumping too. Trust me. As a kid born in San Diego, even the southern cold is no joke.
So I think that's going to play a factor in that Florida State game. But I think 11-1's a safe prediction. I think if we had to go floor, I think it's 10-2, but I think the ceiling's 12-0.
Yeah, so if you go 10-2, I definitely think it's going to be that game that slips up. I think they're...
Actually, you know what? No, Georgia Tech is a team that I think is a big trap game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it's not at Georgia Tech because that would make me feel a little bit worse about it being a random trap game. It's going to be at Mercedes-Benz, so I don't know how. I know that's really close, but are Georgia Tech fans really going to pay the money?
They did against Tennessee a couple years ago at Mercedes. So
Yep.
So I did. So it's possible.
Awesome. Well, hey Ryan, we appreciate you being on. Before we head out, can you kind of just tell everybody where to find you? Kind of just tell them about yourself there.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter as where I'm mainly, busy at Fravel_Ryan. I post everything and anything Notre Dame. I also hop at Spaces and Top Ball. So that's where you can find me on Twitter. Then you can also find me on the Week Zero podcast on YouTube. Just look up Week Zero Productions on YouTube. Go drop us, a sub. Like we do a bi-weekly podcast right now where we cover all of college football. And once the season starts, we'll be doing our own, every week show. I have guest pickers. We kind of do like a college game day type thing. This past year, we actually did one of our shows live from South Bend for the Notre Dame Ohio State game. This year, we're going to be doing it live from Oregon for the Boise State game. So we'll be doing that there. And then, we also do highlights videos and everything like that. So, if any that interests you, go over and drop us a sub and a like.
Yep. And we'll have all that below. And I can't remember. What was the outcome of that game? The Ohio State Notre Dame game? What happened on that one?
They lost count, right?
Lost count.
Hey, if we have time, funny side story.
Yeah, let's do it.
You don't mind. So me and my buddies, I flew my buddies out to go to that game. Now my buddies are an Oregon fan, a Michigan fan, and a Virginia Tech fan, and a Kentucky fan. So
I hate all your
never been to
friends.
South Bend State. They'd never been to South Bend. So we're like, okay, we're gonna fly everybody out. We're gonna go hang out, spend a weekend, go to college game day. We stayed up from midnight until the gates open for game day, right? Well, we get there at midnight, and there's already a huge line from Notre Dame college kids, all the way back from the game day setup to touchdown Jesus. So we're sitting there, we're just bored. We're like, man, what are we gonna do for 9 hours until they open the gates? Well, some Notre Dame college students bring out a beer pong table. But oh, okay, cool. Well, my friend was like, "Hey, man, maybe this kind of being joking, not being serious. Like maybe this ain't a good idea because we're doing it right at the feet. I touchdown Jesus." He said, "I think this might be a moment." And so with the game happens and that whole not having the 11th man on the field, and I'm walking out of the stadium. When I'm mad like that, I tell my friends, don't talk to me. Like, don't want to talk. Just get to the car. Let's get back to the hotel. I'm going to go to bed. And we're walking back, and my friend goes, man, looking back on it now, I bet you really wish we didn't play beer pong out. And I say, you can walk home, man. Like, this is not the time.
Your ticket is revoked. That's hilarious. Well, I definitely appreciate Marcus not knowing how to count past two hands. But no, but we appreciate you. Thanks for the stories. Thanks for all the Irish knowledge there. And make sure everybody go check it out. If you didn't get it, it will be down below in her, whatever it is.
Link below in the description.
There we go, in the description. I'm not smart, but I can lift heavy things. But thank you, sir, and hope you have a good night, my friend.
Did you too, man?